What if I told you that a single moment on a basketball court could ignite a firestorm about race, accountability, and the fine line between sportsmanship and social commentary? That's exactly what happened in a recent WNBA game, and it's a story that's way more layered than the play-by-play suggests. Let me break this down for you, because this isn't just about a foul. It's about how we interpret intent, the power of social media, and the uncomfortable truths that come when personal beliefs clash with professional boundaries. Here's what happened. DiJonai Carrington, a player for the Chicago Sky, was ejected after a flagrant 2 foul on Sophie Cunningham of the Indiana Fever. But here's the twist. Minutes later, Carrington posted the words "white privilege" on social media and tagged the Fever. Now, let's pause for a second. Why would someone immediately weaponize a phrase like that after a physical play? Is it a statement about the incident, or is it a reflection of deeper tensions that have nothing to do with this specific moment? Personally, I think it's both. It's a microcosm of how athletes today are expected to navigate not just the game, but the cultural narratives that surround it. And that's wild, right? Because when you're out there on the court, your primary job is to compete, but now, your every action is filtered through a lens of social justice, identity politics, and public perception. Now, let's talk about the play itself. Sophie Cunningham, who is white, was driving to the basket when Carrington, who is black, hit her in the head and neck, knocking her down. Cunningham said she believed the foul was intentional. But here's where things get complicated. The referee upgraded it to a flagrant 2 after reviewing the wind-up, impact, and follow-through. But Carrington's coach, Tyler Marsh, didn't see it that way. He thought she was making a play on the ball. So, who's right? The answer isn't clear-cut, and that's the problem. Flagrant fouls are inherently subjective. They are not just about the physical act, they are about perceived intent. And that's where the real drama lies. What Cunningham saw as a deliberate act of aggression, Carrington's coach saw as a competitive move. And yet, the league's decision to eject Carrington suggests they leaned into the idea of malice. But what if the line between defense and recklessness is thinner than we think? What if the referee's interpretation was influenced by the racial dynamics of the players involved? That's a question that haunts every sports fan who's ever watched a controversial call. Then there's the social media post. Carrington's message of white privilege wasn't just a reaction, it was a declaration. And it's here that the narrative gets even messier. Cunningham herself called out the post, saying it had nothing to do with race, pointing out she'd been ejected before for similar behavior. But is that really the case? Or is this another example of how athletes are forced to choose between their personal convictions and the expectations of their peers? What makes this really interesting is the way it highlights the tension between individual accountability and collective identity. Carrington's post could be seen as a bold stand against systemic racism, but it could also be interpreted as a deflection, a way to shift the focus from the actual incident to a broader social issue. And that's the danger, isn't it? When you use a phrase like white privilege, you're not just commenting on a play, you're inviting the entire world to judge you based on your beliefs, not the facts of the moment. But let's not forget the other side of this story. Sophie Cunningham has been a vocal advocate for barring transgender athletes from women's sports, a stance that sparked protests and debates across the league. The WNBA commissioner even acknowledged the ongoing discussions about transgender participation. So, is this incident just another chapter in a larger conversation about identity, inclusion, and the pressures on athletes to take public stances? It feels like it. And that's why this story resonates so deeply. It's not just about a foul or a social media post. It's about how the WNBA, and sports in general, is becoming a battleground for cultural wars that have nothing to do with the game itself. The players aren't just competing for wins anymore, they are competing for narratives, for influence, for the right to define what's fair, what's just, and what's acceptable in the public eye. In the end, what does this all mean? It means that the line between sports and society is blurring faster than ever. And as viewers, we are left to grapple with the uncomfortable truth that every play, every post, every comment is now part of a larger story, one that's shaped by our biases, our beliefs, and the way we choose to interpret the actions of others. So, the next time you watch a game, ask yourself, are you watching the sport, or are you watching the story that the players, the league, and your own assumptions are telling you? Because the answer might surprise you.